welcome to The List on EWW-TV. I'm Charlie Siegel.
And I'm Zach Crichton. For the next few minutes, we'll present our top 5 sports stories of the week and discuss why they made the top 5. Did your top 5 make our list? Let's find out. At number 5, former Denver Nuggets head coach Michael Malone agreed to a deal to become the new head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels. Charlie, what does this jump mean for Malone and the future of college basketball in Chapel Hill?
Well, first off, this is a very exciting new step for North Carolina. I believe this is the first head coach hire that has no prior ties to the university since the 1950s. Aside from Coach Malone's daughter, who was on the volleyball team there, this could have swayed his decision. We don't know for sure. But having a coach from any pro sport go down to coach at the collegiate level is a very high-risk situation. I think Malone will be able to put together a solid team and bring in some high-profile players, whether that be through the portal or high school recruitment. Personally, I know that if I had the opportunity to go play for a coach that was responsible for the development of Nikola Jokic, I wouldn't think twice.
Yeah, I certainly agree. Malone is a championship-winning head coach at the end of the day for the Nuggets, like you just mentioned. So there's always something to be said about those coaches that have been in the big moments and have shown that they can win. Now, with that being said, the transition from pro sports to college, it's very different. There's always a lot of concern there. For example, Bill Belichick, going from the Patriots to UNC, same team, ironically. Now, college sports, they're becoming more and more like professional sports at the end of the day. And you have things like the transfer portal and NIL. So it's going to be tough to navigate. And I still think it will take a couple years for North Carolina to kind of get back to being that blue blood. But again, with the pedigree of Coach Malone and just like the brand name overall of UNC, I think that it'll be a pretty quick rebuild at the end of the day. I think Malone's a great hire. I think UNC, they definitely made the right choice. A guy that can come in and possibly win a championship for the squad.
At number 4, the UCLA Bruins have come out on top of the women's college basketball world after dominating the South Carolina Gamecocks 79-51. Zach, what are your thoughts about this statement win, and let's recap the women's tournament.
Well, this was the third largest women's basketball championship game defeat. UCLA won by 28 points against a South Carolina team that has been so dominant over the past couple of seasons. Very well-balanced effort on both sides of the basketball. The Bruins, every single lady in double-digit scoring figures, very well-balanced offensively. You have Gabriela Jaquez, the younger sister of Miami Heat's Jaquez, led the way with 21. It's her best scoring effort since January 21st. Now, you have Lauren Betts as well. A 6'7" lady just dominated the glass, a 14 and 11 double-double. Defensively, the Bruins, they held South Carolina to 29% from the floor, 13% from deep, and they didn't allow a single 20-point quarter. There was a 9-point third quarter and a 10-point first quarter. You're just not going to win games when you score 10 points in a quarter. They forced 14 turnovers, and it's just dominant from start to finish. Congratulations to UCLA. This was their first championship in program history for the women. Great game for them.
Yeah, for UCLA to win the tournament, it's just massive for the school. UCLA has gone through so many tough years regarding their athletic program. Again, congratulations to them, but we have to talk about the losing team. And Tessa Johnson for the Gamecocks, who is a junior who has already won a championship for them. She was looking to return for possibly next year, bring some more hardware for South Carolina. Who's to say? She won one before. She's looking for another one. She's going to come back for her senior year. And I believe in South Carolina next year, but who knows what can happen. UCLA, they could form a dynasty.
Yeah, certainly could. And, Dawn Staley, obviously one of the best coaches in women's college basketball. She's always going to reload. She's always going to have some of the best recruits. So at the end of the day, they're very well in the running to win next year's March Madness tournament. And same with UConn, too. We just saw UConn in the national championship game for the men's. We're going to get to that later. But they're always in contention for the women's, too. I mean, they have been a dynasty for however long. It's going to be a great season next season. At number 3, the MLB season is 2 weeks in, and there have been some great moments already. Charlie, what have been some of the highlights to start the 2026 campaign, and who are some players that are just tearing it up?
I've been looking forward to talk about this, Zach. I want to talk about the Houston Astros, who are 6-5 so far in the season. Not a crazy impressive winning average, but I want to talk about Yordan Alvarez, who is widely considered to be the best player at the start of the season. He's off to a great start where he ranks number 1 overall with an 83.7 rating. He's the highest among all players, driven by a .423 batting average. That's crazy so far earlier in this season. And he's got 9 runs scored, 3 home runs, 8 RBIs, and a .590 on-base percentage. He can't be stopped so far. And I'm looking forward to see if he has the ability to keep this going, keep up his level of play throughout this long season. The Astros were 87-75 last season. And I think that they're looking to be the team that can take down the deadly Dodgers.
Yeah, he certainly has had a great start to the season. I can't always talk about the Brewers, so I'm going to focus on two teams, the good and the bad. Starting off with the good, the Cincinnati Reds. They've looked really good to start the season, jumping out to a 7-3 record. For a team that's essentially a perennial 500 team, they've looked really good to start the season. They have some newcomers here. Sal Stewart, a second-year guy, is currently batting .353 to lead the team, taking a huge step up from .255 from last season. And Eugenio Suarez, a veteran power hitter from the Mariners, he has 7 RBIs to start 2026. Great pickup for them. And then on the mound, looking at guys like Andrew Abbott, he always brings continuity to this Red squad. And Chase Burns, he's another second-year guy, 16 punch-outs in 11 innings of work, and he's an outstanding .82 ERA. Now, on to the bad. The Toronto Blue Jays, they've had a really sluggish start to this 2026 MLB season. Of guys that have had at least 7 at-bats, there's 5 guys currently batting under .250. That is insane.
Unacceptable.
Yes, absolutely. And outside of guys like Kevin Gossman, he's been the best player on this team so far, and Dylan Cease, they're both pitchers. This team looks really stuck in the mud after going to the World Series last season.
We've got more coming up on the list, including a discussion on the recent bug infecting association of the 2026 College Basketball National Title Game. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the show. Josh, let's take a look at some highlights from this last game here. What a performance by the UWW-TV staff in this one.
Absolutely. Look at this clip. Bree is going to signal for Ryan to cut to camera 2, but instead Ryan's going to cut to 3, and that's where things might take a turn. But hold on a second here. Just when you think it's over, Bree makes the split-second decision and reaches over Ryan to cut to camera 2 herself.
And the truck goes wild. Once again, the UWW-TV staff delivers.
Here at UW Whitewater Intramural Sports, we have a motto: a sport for everyone and everyone in a sport.
Come on! Accepted anyways. Oh, she got that off, and they're going to count it.
Had a blast. Always have fun at intramurals.
Every day we strive to go above and beyond that goal by providing healthy exercise, promoting leisure education, and giving students that competitive atmosphere they are looking for.
Yes! Yes!
It's exciting. Brings me back to those high school days with Friday Night Lights.
With our 25 different intramural sports offered, we guarantee that we have a sport for you. Go to our website and find your sport today.
Welcome back to the list on UWW-TV. Let's continue the countdown to this week's top sports stories. At number 2, many of the NBA's top players have had some injuries as of late, with the NBA season nearing the end. Zach, what are teams limping towards the finish line, and how will this affect the landscape of the NBA playoffs?
My goodness, we've had so many injuries. Guys like Cade Cunningham dealing with a collapsed lung. Ant is still banged up. I know you're going to talk about some of the other guys a little bit later. So many injuries across the NBA. It's just been insane how many teams are dealing with injuries. You know, at the end of the day, most of the time in the NBA and other sports, it comes down to who's the healthiest at the end of the season. That's usually who wins the championship. And so far, just all the big teams, all the big stars have been banged up a time or two so far this season. Now, looking at a specific team, I'm not the biggest fans of them, but the Denver Nuggets have looked really, really good to end this season. Currently on a 9-game win streak, Jokic, he recently clinched a triple-double average for the season at 28, 13, and 11. This guy's been phenomenal all season. He always is. Jamal Murray, he's played very well in his first ever All-Star season, averaging 25 points. And you also have guys like Aaron Gordon, Cameron Johnson. They always play their roles helping out this Nugget squad. And finally, the biggest difference for me has been Peyton Watson. He missed a huge stretch of games this season with injury, but he has had a breakout season so far in the NBA season. If he's healthy, he brings a lot of length, offensive production, and elite rim protection for the Nuggets. If you don't know the name, make sure you get to, because he's going to be a huge part of a potential title run for Denver.
And unfortunately, we have to talk about two of our favorite players here on the list. Luka Doncic, who went down with a hamstring injury and is currently getting treatment back in Europe. He was in the MVP conversation until this injury. It could very well not just affect his chances at the MVP, but the Lakers' playoff hopes. Doncic flew to Europe on Sunday to begin treatment, and he's been ruled out for the regular season. He sustained a grade 2 hamstring strain during the 139-96 loss to OKC. Another player who is wholeheartedly our favorite, Victor Wembanyama, was dangerously close to being ineligible for the end of the season awards. The San Antonio Spurs superstar exited Monday night's game against the 76ers, and it is a rib contusion, so we don't know what's going on with him, but hopefully he can return soon.
And our top story of the week, the 2026 NCAA Men's National Championship game was Monday night, and it wrapped up an incredible March Madness tournament. Charlie, let's break down the national title game that saw Michigan come out on top.
I think the world hates me, Zach, because I'm forced to talk about the Michigan Wolverines. We all know I'm an Ohio State fan here on the list, but I'm going to do it. This was UConn's game to lose, and thinking that they shouldn't have been here in the first place. I know that only one play can change the game, but I'm a stern believer that this was Duke's year to win it, and Cam Boozer determined this outcome of the whole Final Four. I think guys like Solo Ball and Dimitri both got into foul trouble early, which affected the impact that they had on the game. Demery fouled out of the game, which led to a lot of free throw opportunities, so much that led to an unfortunate victory for the Wolverines. I think Solo Ball had a lot of talent and couldn't come back next year, and what do I have to say about the Wolverines, man?
Yeah, absolutely. See, I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum. I think the Wolverines just kind of had this in the bag the whole game. We saw them all tournament consistently scoring, 80, 90 points. They had an elite offense. And in this game, they really didn't have that. They found out that they can win ugly as well. They only hit 2 threes all game. They averaged like about 11 throughout this entire tournament. So that was incredible that they were able to find a different way to win this game. They limited the impact of Terrace Reed Jr., a player for UConn. He was averaging about 20 and 13 in this tournament. He dominated in March, but the combination of Mara and Johnson was just enough to throw him off. You mentioned the fouls. There was a lot of fouls in this game. I believe it was 25 made free throws for the Wolverines. And it wasn't so much the big guys. I thought the big guys were going to get in foul trouble. It was the guards, like you mentioned, Solo Ball and Demery. Lindeborg, he was obviously banged up, wasn't 100%, but the supporting cast played their role as well. Cadeau with 19. Terrace Johnson Jr., he had a couple putbacks and a great defensive impact. And I thought this game was really good for Michigan. The first championship in 37 years. Ton of credit to head coach Dusty May. Great game for Michigan.
Congratulations, Michigan. And that will do it for this edition of The List. We'll be back in a week to talk about next week's top 5 sports headlines. I'm Charlie Siegel.
And I'm Zach Kreider. We'll see you next time for more stories right here on UWW TV.